What's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small firm in central Minnesota. Oh, I don't have the... Ruining my own intro. There you go. Sorry. Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small firm in central Minnesota. If you're ever in Minnesota and you run into any legal issues, please give me a call, see if I can help out. If I can't help out, I'll find you someone who can. So tonight, we have a little bit of a different sort of stream going. This is the Sovereign Citizen live stream. Sovereign Citizen live stream. So we're going to be discussing some sovereign citizen arguments, the basis for some of their beliefs, and then we'll watch a video or 2 or 10 or whatever and see how see how things work out when you apply these arguments in the real world, because that is the measure of the validity of the argument, how well it works when you try it. And if you didn't know of that very important test for your argument, I think you should go try it more. Maxwell is saying that Mr. Masterson is streaming right now. He usually does stream on Friday nights, and that is great. People should definitely watch them. They're fantastic. But I also stream on Friday nights, and so if people get done over there, they can stop over here and enjoy something. Tonight we don't have... You know, normally I do live streams on the lawsuit, and we've had a lot of them lately. A lot of them. And so, but tonight we don't have any lawsuit stuff, and it's probably going to be that way for a couple weeks, to maybe even as much as a month or two. And that's fine. We will still do live streams every Friday night at around 11 Central Standard Time. So if you want to stop in and join us, stop in and join us. If you don't want to join us at that time, go ahead and watch the video later. That's fine as well. ETA on the googly content. I don't have a specific ETA. I've been very, very busy, so I haven't put out as much content this past week. We'll see if I can get something going this coming week. How's that? I will attempt to get one googly video out this coming week. My favorite food is fried chicken. And please don't drink too much. I really don't drink too much. So, all right. So, guys, the sovereign citizen movement is an interesting concept in American law. Very interesting to me, at least. This is where a group of people have decided, and this wasn't like a collective decision. This is something that has built up over years and years and years. Have found some pieces of law that they believe justify them in their belief that they are exempt from the laws of the state or of the union itself. And so we will take a look at them. What is this? I have a friend who has an ex threatening her over text and showed up to her place unexpectedly. Are the texts all the proof she needs to start the process of getting a restraining order? It depends on the context of content of the texts and other things. I mean, the basis of a restraining order is typically that one is in reasonable fear of their health or safety, or something along those lines. So if the fear is reasonable, the content of the text may be all that she needs, but certainly to start the process. But you've got to tell the story, and you've got to convince a fact finder, either typically a judge, that the restraining order is valid. I'd strongly recommend they contact some sort of attorney and see about getting that process started. You can do it yourself, but you want to make sure that the basis for pursuing the restraining order is reasonable. And it also may start with, contacting the police and getting a police report. That would also be helpful. So If you want to ask me more about it and give me more details, you can certainly send me a message, and I can tell you what I can, but ultimately my response will end up being you should probably talk to an attorney in whatever state they're in. And Maxwell, yes, I am excited to film jerking off tomorrow. That sounds great. So I'm looking forward to it greatly. Make sure you keep me apprised of your arrival time so you're not sitting around doing nothing. So tonight, guys, I have, I'm going to use my Glencairn Rekieta Law glass again. And tonight, I am going to start with something a little different. This was from Guns, Beer, Freedom. This is Heyman's Old Tom Gin. So we're going to drink some gin neat tonight. And that is exciting to me. So I cannot wait. And yes, you are being detained by this chat. Definitely. Ooh. Gin has a nice smell to it. You're right. This is not Woodford Reserve, but I also was sent this by Guns, Beer, Freedom. So, so we're going to give it a shot. We're going to give it a shot. Smells really nice. Very fragrant, floral smell to it. It's got a kick going down, similar to like a vodka. But the floral notes really sit. It's really good. So what's the theme here? Browsing through random reports of traveling in a vehicle. No, the theme here... Hey! The mod is here. The theme here, person whose name I cannot pronounce because of the Russian characters. I think that's Russian. The theme is we're going to actually look at the basis of the sovereign citizens movement, their legal arguments, kind of what fuels their concepts, and then we're going to look at people running through, traveling in a vehicle. We're going to watch them do it live and see how that goes. So, one more. That's good stuff, man. All right. So, let's open up with an exploration of the FBI's view on sovereign citizenship. You just took Russian money. This proves collusion. Oh, no! Ah! And I just talked to Mueller without my attorney present, told him I never talked to Russians. Oh, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. Beefy as Maximus. Yes, that is the proper response. Free legal advice. Am I being retained? Okay, guys. So here we go. So domestic terrorism, the sovereign citizen movement. So there is... yeah, thanks, Guns, Beer, Freedom. They're both very good. The cognac is really, or not the cognac, the brandy, the Armagnac is very, very smooth, and it's got a nice orange kind of hint to it. I did not address how long the stream will be tonight. Give me just a second. It's got a nice orange kind of tang to it, which is really good, and it's a really subtle drink. The gin is not subtle at all. It's in your face, but in a good way. I really, really am enjoying it. Man, it has a nice bite to it. So the stream tonight will probably be an hour and a half to 2 hours. Kind of depends on how things go. And, you know, we're probably not going to do a 3-hour marathon or anything, but we'll see. We shall see. So, as for the sovereign citizen movement, I'm not going to read through this FBI document. I just want to point out how annoyed the government is with sovereign citizens. We have domestic terrorism, right? And so let's look at today we look at the third threat. Here, I'm going to start here. The sovereign citizen extremist movement. Sovereign citizens are anti-government extremists who believe that even though they physically reside in this country, they are separate or sovereign from the United States. As a result, they believe they don't have to answer to any government authority, including courts, taxing entities, motor vehicle departments, or law enforcement. This causes all sorts of problems and crimes. For example, many sovereign citizens don't pay their taxes. They hold illegal courts that issue warrants for judges and police officers. They clog up the court system with frivolous lawsuits and liens against public officials to harass them. And they use fake money orders, personal checks, and the like at government agencies, banks, and businesses. Guys, sovereign citizens are expert real-life trolls. Thanks a bunch, Higgy. I really appreciate it. They're expert real-life trolls, and if you want to consider yourself a troll, you better step your game up, because these guys have a serious advantage going on. Gaston Heaps, wouldn't a sovereign citizen be an illegal alien? It depends. They would not recognize, the concept of a border that would prevent them from being anywhere in the United States. And we're going to get to why. It's under Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation. They consider themselves free inhabitants, which cannot be restricted from moving between states. So hold on one second. So since you cannot restrict their ingress or egress from states, they cannot possibly be there illegally. At least that's what I would argue if I was one of them. All right, so that's just the beginning. Not every action taken in the name of a sovereign citizen ideology is a crime, but the list of illegal actions committed by these groups, cells, and individuals is extensive and puts them squarely on our radar. In addition to the above, sovereign citizens commit murder and physical assault, threaten judges, law enforcement professionals, and government personnel, impersonate police officers and diplomats, use fake currency, passports, license plates, and driver's licenses, and engineer various white-collar scams, including mortgage fraud and so-called redemption schemes. They are often confused with extremists from the militia movement. While sovereign citizens sometimes use or buy illegal weapons, guns are secondary to their anti-government, anti-tax beliefs. On the other hand, guns and paramilitary training are paramount to militia groups. So let's not dwell too much on the FBI here, because they're really overselling sovereign citizens in some ways. But the fear is that someone who believes they're immune to the law will act in a way that they're immune to the law. And if they do so, they may do all sorts of terrible things. So that's the fear. They really get under the skin of the FBI. But of course, this is an absurdly biased view of sovereign citizens, and I don't want to unfairly paint them. We'll let them paint themselves in their own way. But, so sovereign citizens are based on largely, do you guys, okay, so some of you, let's analogize this for you. Some of you guys read the Bible, right? Or go to a church out there. And have you ever heard someone take like a specific verse out of the Bible and use it to make a point or to prove something? Just one verse kind of out of any context. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this. It's not rare. This happens all the time, right? That's what sovereign citizens kind of do with the law here. And I'm looking, this is really tiny text. So I'm going to zoom in. Let's see if we can make it a little more legible. All right. Hopefully that helps. Guinness 1987X. No, there's not an example of a legitimate sovereign citizen. It is a faulty legal theory that people apply to their situation, and it's actually, like, let's be honest about what it is. It's a real problem because people believe it. people believe some of these arguments and believe that there are magic words and magic phrases that will get them out of whatever crime they are accused of or out of something. And they're not real things. There's no magic phrase that will help out, that will magically transport you away from the jurisdiction of the court. And I'll actually show you where the court says that in just a little bit. Ezekiel 23:20. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emissions was like that of horses. Yeah, see? There you go. Can Dick claim sovereign citizenship to get out of the lawsuit? I mean, I wouldn't recommend it as a sound legal theory. So here's where the rights start, or where the idea of sovereign citizenship starts. This is the article they're talking about, Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation. This is about being a free inhabitant. So let's go through this real quick, and I'll talk about it. Brief history lesson. If you don't know, we had the Declaration of Independence in 1776. It was followed by the Articles of Confederation in 1777. The Articles of Confederation were the governing document of the United States for the next decade until 1787, when the United States Constitution was proposed, and then the Constitution was ratified shortly relative to the time of travel and conversation after its proposal. So the Articles of Confederation controlled the United States for approximately 10 to 12 years. The popular story goes that the Articles were insufficient, provided the federal government with insufficient authority to manage relationships between the states, and thus a constitution was required. That's a good narrative. It's probably likely true, but it points to an interesting sort of facet that was destroyed, in my opinion, by Marbury versus Madison. And that was the idea that our central founding document, the Constitution, would be changed or outright rewritten with some frequency. I mean, if you look at this, the founders are the ones who wrote the Articles of Confederation, or I shouldn't say the founders, but a group of similar men in contemporary times wrote the Articles of Confederation. And then, a similar group of men redrafted it. It wasn't sufficient. They needed to change it. And then the new Constitution, they put in the amendment process to allow and facilitate the changing of that document. And many of them believed that the document would be changed with relative frequency. And then we got Marbury versus Madison, where the court decided that they could basically reinterpret the Constitution in several different ways, and we suddenly lost. We suddenly lost the concept of actually controlling our founding documents and controlling the laws that govern our country in such a specific way. And we allowed courts to kind of take over that role for the Congress, which I think is a real shame. And we see kind of it's more efficient to do it the way we do it now, but it's less clear. There's lots of room for interpretation. There's lots of room for political motivations. So without further ado, let's talk about Article 4. So that's kind of the history lesson of how we get to the Articles of Confederation. It was right after the Declaration, and then it was a short run of this document. But the better to secure and perpetuate mutual friendship and intercourse among the people of the different states in this union, the free inhabitants of each of these states, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice excepted, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. And the people of each state shall free ingress and regress to and from any other state, and shall enjoy therein all the privileges and trade and commerce, subject to the same duties, impositions, and restrictions as the inhabitants thereof respectively, provided that such restrictions shall not extend so far as to prevent the normal removal of property imported into any state to any other state of which the owner is an inhabitant, provided also that no imposition, duties, or restrictions shall be laid by any state on the property of the United States or either of them. If any person guilty of or charged with treason, felony, or other high misdemeanor in any state shall flee from justice and be found in any of the United States, he shall, upon demand of the governor or executive power of the state from which he fled, be delivered up and removed to the state having jurisdiction of his offense. Full faith and credit shall be given to each of these states, to the records, acts, and judicial proceedings of the courts and magistrates of every other state. So, the important distinctions we have here: free inhabitants of each of these states, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice excepted, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens. So we've got the free inhabitants of each of these states shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. So they latch on to the distinction between free inhabitants and free citizens, and they believe that there are two classes of people. Whatever the situation may have been under the Articles of Confederation, the situation is not so today. There are not two groups of citizens, but it starts here is where their beliefs go. When someone is screaming, "I'm a free inhabitant" under Article 4, that's what they're talking about. So there you go. There's your education piece on the Articles of Confederation. I mean, you can read it sometime if you want, but really, I don't think it even says what they think it says. It mostly just means that there was a difference between inhabitants and citizens earlier in this country. Nowadays, citizenship is conferred to pretty much anybody outside of, the immigration and naturalization process. You're a citizen when you're born in the United States, or you're born to two U.S. citizen parents outside of the United States, and potentially one U.S. citizen parent outside of the United States as well. It really, there's a lot of confusion over how that Fourth Amendment is applied to citizenship, and there's some argument, but Graham Laws, yes, you are being detained, and now you are stuck here. You're stuck here. Thank you for joining the stream. Now you cannot leave. So there was a difference between citizenship and inhabitants, and an inhabitant a long time ago. We no longer have that, right? And the way this manifests in our current Constitution was, at the beginning, white property-owning males were allowed the right to vote, and the other group of people than white property-owning males were not allowed to vote, and that's the type of person who would be considered a free inhabitant. But the distinction isn't present in the modern Constitution between those two groups of people, outside of just the slight difference of rights. So that's, we still see vestiges of it when the Constitution is rewritten, but not in an explicit manner. And then now, after the passage of the 13th Amendment, or the 15th Amendment and the 19th Amendment, we pretty much have, equal voting rights for everybody who is a citizen of the United States, and that citizenship has expanded to include really anybody who's born here or who's gone through that naturalization process. So that's that. The next question, I guess, is, what happened next? So, a little bit more U.S. history. If you don't know, there was this thing in the 1860s called the Civil War. It was fought. It was a very bloody war between the North and the South, generally speaking, of the United States, over issues including slavery, states' rights, and all sorts of other stuff. And those states' rights issues tend to involve slavery as well. I will not go as far as PragerU does and say that the Civil War was fought over slavery. There's enough counter evidence to say that it was fought for a lot of reasons that included slavery as well. But I don't want to cheapen the rest of the argument by just elevating slavery as the sole reason for the Civil War. It was not. It was really about the social contract between states and the Union, and states and other states that was no longer being fulfilled. Now, a lot of that did have to do with slavery, but there's more to it than that. So, let's move past that. And following the Civil War, we had the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and that is the Reconstruction period, when the states are learning to live with each other after trying to murder each other for a long time. And in that Reconstruction period, the 14th Amendment comes in, and it changes the way the Constitution interacts with individuals and with states and the federal government. And prior to that, prior to the application of the 14th Amendment, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights did not directly apply to the states. And if you don't know that, that could be a weird, shocking thing to you, but state sovereignty, state authority, state power, and state identity were much, much stronger prior to the Civil War and even after the Civil War than they are today. Nowadays, most of us identify as Americans, but if you've ever met a Texan, you will know that they identify as a Texan. And whatever comical version of Texan you have now, you would have people identifying with their state in that same sort of nationalistic fervor that Texans sometimes display in regards to whatever state they resided in the time contemporary to the Civil War. State identity was much different. And if you think about it, there are practical reasons for this. One, travel's really expensive and moving is very difficult. They didn't have the same technology or infrastructure that we have today. And so actually moving to a different state was a massive thing, and you're leaving your entire support network. Most people's entire families are located within one state. Oftentimes the seat of their deeply held beliefs or their religions are inside those states. Because remember, prior to the 14th Amendment, the restriction on religious freedoms, or I guess the guarantee of religious freedoms under the First Amendment did not apply to the states. So at the earliest parts of our country, all of the states actually had state-mandated religions, except for, I think, Rhode Island, which was the only non-mandated religion state. But you know, if you were a Quaker, you lived in one state. If you were a different type of Protestant, you lived in another. And so, you know, the states would hold these very large majority populations of specific religions as well, and moving into a different state could pose problems that way. So state identity was very important, and we kind of overlook that as we look on things now. But, you know, that's how it was. That's not how it is anymore. And I'm trying to figure out where I got on this tangent. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. Is this valid? How does one become a sovereign citizen? And I found it. Here it is. Here's the Affidavit of Reservation of Rights under UCC 1308, formerly 1-207. So this is the documentation used by sovereign citizens to say that they are no longer a slave to the state, and I respect them immensely for shedding that shackle of authority. I hope it works well for them. So this is the form. So here's what we got. So let it be known to all that I, first, middle, and last. First, middle, last is not the name of a person. That is an indication for you to change that to your first, middle, and last names. Explicitly reserves all of my rights. See UCC 1308, which is formerly 1-207. Performance or acceptance under reservation of rights. A party that with explicit reservation of rights performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offended or offered by the other party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Such words as without prejudice, under protest, or the like are sufficient. So that's their legal basis for this. If you don't know, the UCC is the Uniform Commercial Code, which governs transactions between parties. So I retain all of my rights and liberties at all times and in all places, nunc pro tunc, now for then, from the time of my birth and forevermore. Further, I retain my rights not to be compelled to perform under any contract or commercial agreement that I did not enter knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. And furthermore, I do not accept the liability of the compelled benefit of any revealed contract or commercial agreement. I am not ever subject to silent contracts and have never knowingly or willingly contracted away my sovereignty. Further, I am not a United States citizen or a 14th Amendment citizen. I am a state citizen of the Republic and reject any attempted expatriation. See 15 United States Statutes at Large, July 27, 1868, also known as the Expatriation Statute. Violation fee of my liberty is $250,000 per incident or per 15 minutes or any part thereof, wherefore all have undeniable knowledge. And I realize now that I am not a sovereign citizen, that I'm in the wrong line of work if I can charge $1 million an hour I need to start doing that. Affiant first, middle, last, sui juris, a natural-born citizen of your state here in its de jure capacity as a republic and is one of the several states of the Union created by the Constitution for the United States of America, 1777-1789. This incidentally makes me an American national and a common man of the sovereign people. Does swear and affirm that Affiant has scribed and read the foregoing facts, and in accordance with the best of Affiant's first-hand knowledge and conviction, such are true, correct, complete, and not misleading. In the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There you go. So this is all you need. This document makes you a citizen or an inhabitant, a natural-born citizen of the state, of whatever state you're born in, as a republic. Guys, okay. Let's real quick zoom through these Uniform Commercial Code sections and let's take a look at what this is. So here we go. 1308. This is the basis for that affidavit. This is a performance or acceptance under reservation of rights. A party that with explicit reservation of rights performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offered by the other party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved, such as without prejudice under, or such words as without prejudice under protest or the like are sufficient, and subsection A does not apply to an accord and satisfaction. Gaston Heap says, you can tell this is authoritative because it says authority on top on it. Yes, absolutely. And that's the most important thing. There's always a magic word. And always a magic word. Yeah, I'll pull that up. So authority. Yes, right here on the side, sovereign authority. So under your sovereign authority, you enter into these problems. So, okay. So here you go. They've basically proof texted this section of 308. Let's go to 301. That's the beginning of this subsection, or this part of the subsection, and see what it says. So this is territorial applicability and the power to choose applicable law. So except as otherwise noted, provided in this section, when a transaction bears a reasonable relation to the state and also to another state or nation, the parties may agree that the law either of this state or such other state or nation shall govern their rights and duties. And I can see the stream going crazy, so just a second. My kilobytes per second is dropping dramatically. Good job. Good job, country internet. All right, we seem to be back. Okay. In the absence of an agreement effective under subsection A and except as provided in subsection C, the Uniform Commercial Code applies to transactions bearing an appropriate relation to this state. If one of the following provisions of the UCC specifies the applicable law, that provision governs, and a contrary agreement is effective only to the extent permitted by the law so specified. So, Jared from Subway pled that he's a sovereign citizen. Does that mean he's not a chomo anymore? I guess so. I guess so. So here we go. Now we're getting a little bit more look at what this applies to. So this is, you know, the territorial applicability and the power to choose applicable law. So under the context of choosing applicable law, you know, you have a reservation of rights. So you may choose other laws, but reserve specific rights that maybe that law doesn't cover. Tester239 says, is there any proper way to be a sovereign citizen? Will you cover history as to why this concept even came about? I'm in the middle of covering that history right now as best as I can. But I might have to do a specific video on the full history of it because it's long and complicated, and I don't think it's a proper format for a live stream to really get into it. But people have written a surprisingly large amount on sovereign citizens, people who are outside of the movement. So I may do that at some point. But the short answer is no, there's not a proper way to be a sovereign citizen. It is not an effective legal theory, and we'll get to that in just a minute and what the Supreme Court has to say about it. Or what, I don't know if it's a Supreme Court decision. We'll see in just a second. It might be just an appellate court. Okay, so since 301 doesn't fully tell us the scope of everything, I've pulled up section 103, and this is This is the important part, because this is where the Uniform Commercial Code lays out the purpose of the Uniform Commercial Code. Like, what is it for, and why is this not an effective sovereign citizen argument? The Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally construed and applied to promote its underlying purposes and policies, which are 1. To simplify, clarify, and modernize the law governing commercial transactions. 2. To permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom usage and agreement of the parties. And 3. To make uniform the law among various jurisdictions. Unless displaced by the particular provisions of the UCC, principles of law and equity, including the law merchant and the law relative to capacity to contract, principal and agent, estoppel, fraud, misrepresentation, duress, coercion, mistake, bankruptcy, and other validating or invalidating cause supplement its provision. So the point of all this is that the Uniform Commercial Code says nothing to do with your relationship with the state outside of the state's ability to govern a commercial transaction between you and another party. So using the UCC as the basis for using this section of the UCC as the basis for why you don't have a relation to the state is the same as picking one random Bible verse and saying that it means something much larger outside of its context. It doesn't really work that way. You don't get to justify your entire basis of rights on the Uniform Commercial Code because you're, like, when you're driving in a vehicle, you're not engaged in a commercial transaction governed by the UCC. It's just, you're not. So saying that you have reserved your rights under the Uniform Commercial Code is fine if you're in the context of a commercial transaction and writing out that contract, and the contract is conforming to the requirements of the UCC. Something that is not happening when you're engaging with a police officer at your car window. So there's some history there on where they go. And one last document I have before we start getting into the videos is this is an appellate court. Okay, so this is a United States Court of Appeals, 7th Circuit, and this is U.S. v. Schneider. There are almost no cases on sovereign citizenship at the federal level. There are very few in each particular state. I believe there are 6 in Minnesota, and they're all in the past 5 years. All of them. So sovereign citizen argument is not one that is largely explored by the courts because, and so we're talking appellate level cases and higher. So appellate and Supreme Court level. I believe this is the only United States one, is this US v. Schneider. And we'll go through it, the whole thing, because it's a short case. So there's really only that one in the United States level. And in Minnesota, there are 6. I think in North Carolina, there's like 2. And they're all recent. But there's a problem with sovereign citizens in that they don't respect the authority of the courts. So they don't respect the proper process of appeals. So we don't get a lot of appeals decisions from them because they don't do it. Also, most courts just look at the argument as completely frivolous and without merit. And if that argument is frivolous without merit, and it's the sole basis for their appeal, they're going to be dismissed out of hand without actually getting any sort of review on the issue. Now, if they have some other issue attached to it, then they might get their sovereign citizen argument heard and dismissed in court officially, but they have to have some sort of linking thing to get them there. So this is the opinion, and let's see what happened. So Andrew Schneider was sentenced to 5 years in prison after being convicted by a jury of making a threat by mail in violation of 18 U.S.C. 876. The threat was against a judge of the Illinois Circuit Court who had entered a default judgment against Schneider in a lawsuit arising out of a zoning dispute. Sovereign citizens do not like zoning laws. Neither do I, but they really don't like them. The letter, sent certified mail to the justices of the Supreme Court of Illinois, whom the letter describes as, quote, dear public serpents, and, quote, high and mighty yo-yos, contains the following language alleged to be threatening. Quote, I remind you again that this idiota persona non grata, the circuit court judge, so the brackets here are the court's notes about what's going on there, not included in the letter. Idiota persona non grata is of your problem, and if is allowed to continue to be mine, he will be executed as the pending, the court is wondering if he means warning, to others as enemies of the Constitution and nation by his act of war. You had better nuffify, they believe he means nullify, and countermand any of his demented orders, or he will be nullified for his criminal activities. So there you go. That's the letter. The appeal raises a number of issues, but only 3 require consideration. The first is the claim, ripe for us because based entirely on the trial record, that Schneider was denied effective assistance of counsel because, despite his irreconcilable differences between him and his lawyer, the lawyer was not allowed to withdraw from the case. The differences came down to this. Schneider wanted to present as his sole defense the contention that he is a free, sovereign citizen and as such not subject to the jurisdiction of the federal courts. Since that defense has no conceivable validity in American law, the judge would not have permitted it to be presented to the jury, and no reputable lawyer could have been found to attempt to persuade the judge otherwise. Schneider would therefore have the same irreconcilable differences with any ethical and competent lawyer, and so could not have been harmed in any legally relevant sense by the judge's refusing to allow his lawyer to withdraw. If Schneider had made a timely request to be allowed to represent himself, the judge would have been obliged to grant it. But Schneider never asked to be permitted to defend himself. He wanted a lawyer who does not, or at least should not, exist. And that's my favorite part. At least should not exist. So the second issue is, could a reasonable jury find the language we have quoted from Schneider's letter was a threat upon the life of the circuit court? We believe so. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true. The fact that the threat was conditional to be carried out only if the public serpents to whom it was addressed failed to correct the circuit judge's conduct and nullify his orders, presumably including the default judgment, is immaterial. Most threats are conditional. They're designed to accomplish something. The threatener hopes that they will accomplish it so that he won't have to carry out the threats. They are threats nonetheless. Your money or your life is a threat punishable under the statute, expressly so, since the statute separately punishes extortionate threats, indeed more severely than simple ones. Finally, 3, the threat in this case was ambiguous, but the task of interpretation was for the jury, which did not take leave of its senses in concluding that it really was a threat to kill the circuit court judge if his superiors did not rein him in and nullify his orders, that it was not just the rhetoric of hyperbole that comes so easily to the lips of angry Americans, that the judge was sufficiently alarmed to request and receive protection from the local sheriff was corroborative evidence of the meaning of the letter. It did not perhaps illuminate the state of mind of the threatener, but all the statute requires on that score is that the defendant have intended to make the statement found to be a threat, and that is conceded. The test for whether a statement is a threat is an objective one. It is not what the defendant intended, but whether the recipient could reasonably have regarded the defendant's statement as a threat. So just a brief point, and this is one of the problems I have with any sort of law regulating speech, including the regulation of threats, okay? They say, one, that it's an objective test, but that objective test is a reasonable person standard, which is necessarily subjective because we're determining what a reasonable person would perceive. And your idea of a reasonable person, in this case, is 12-person jury's idea of what a reasonable person is. That's subjective, right? That's not objective. It's very much subjective. But, I guess it's about as objective as the court can get in these sort of cases. We have found no recent cases on the point, but it seems clearly correct to use as a matter of principle, quote, a threat is not a state of mind in the thereafter. In the threatener. Sorry, it is an appearance to the victim. So the fact that the victim acts as if he believed the threat is evidence that he did believe it. And the fact that he believed it is evidence that it could reasonably be believed, and therefore that it is a threat. By this chain of inference, the relevance of the judge's testimony is established. We add that the high level of violence in this country, some of it directed against public officials, warrants juries in taking such threats deadly seriously. The last question is whether the district judge abuses discretion in giving the defendant the maximum sentence that the statute authorizes. This is a pre-guideline sentence, and the only question is whether the judge based it on improper considerations. Schneider points to the judge's statement in delivering the sentence, "You're a strange man. In fact, you're a flake." The use of slang in discharging the awesome duty of sentencing is regrettable. We are not a ceremonious people, but there are occasions on which solemnity remains the proper mood, and criminal sentencing is one of them. However, there was no impropriety in the content as distinct from the form of the judge's statement. The context makes clear that in deciding to give the defendant the statutory maximum, the judge was influenced by the fact that Mr. Schneider considers himself to be above the laws of the United States, and a defiant attitude towards the legitimacy of the court system is a proper consideration in deciding how dangerous a convicted criminal is, how likely he is to repeat the crime if not punished severely, and the likelihood that his example will inspire others unless is severely rebuked through the imposition of a heavy sentence, all proper considerations in a discretionary system of sentencing that we had before the sentencing guidelines came into effect. Persons who do not merely violate the law but flout it can expect to be punished more severely than persons who do not thus season their criminality with effrontery. Okay, so there you go. There's U.S. v. Schneider. The important document, or the important language in U.S. v. Schneider is right away at the beginning. So let's see. The sovereign citizen defense has no conceivable validity in American law. The courts do not respect the idea that you do not respect the court. They don't care, and they have the authority to they have jurisdiction over you, whether you like it or not, by you being here. Your citizenship status doesn't matter. Your immigration status doesn't matter. None of those statuses matter. If you're in the United States, they have jurisdiction. What state has jurisdiction over you may matter, but if you're present in the forum, they have jurisdiction over you and you are subject to their laws. There are no magic words that get you out of it. So that's that. Let me see if I can bring this to the front. Is this it? There we go. There we go. Oh, here, let's get that back up top. Okay. So we have this this little set of videos here, and I'm going to go into them in just a second. But what do I want to drink? I'm going to stick with the gin. A little more gin. What about diplomatic immunity? Diplomatic immunity does not mean that you are outside of the jurisdiction of the forum. It just means that you may be immune from certain actions of the forum. You're still within their jurisdiction, and diplomatic immunity has its limits. So yeah. Let's see here. So should we just go ahead and Joseph said, "Am I being ordained?" Acts 7:10. Thank you for that. I needed a chuckle. All right, guys. So let's take a look at this sovereign citizen stuff and see how it works out. Let's laugh along. If you have, okay, so this is going to be kind of a test run of this. If you have questions about what's going on screen, let me know, and I can try and answer the legal aspects of them. But I'll try and offer some commentary as we go through this. This is a compilation video, so if you have other videos, maybe throw them in here about specific situations, and I can bring them up. But for now, we'll start with this one. So here we go. Let me see. Hopefully this isn't a nightmare. I have an idea. Sorry. I'm going to put on headphones. Otherwise, you're going to get a nasty echo as my mic picks up the speakers on my computer, and I don't want to do that to you. So let's hold on one second here. Let me get this what is happening? Let's see. Okay, I think we're gonna set that up. Nickhead sound off. Yeah, sound off, guys, while I set this up. Okay, just a second. All right. Okay, we're gonna try this out, and bear with me. I have not done I've not done this on OBS before, so hopefully this will work in the way I think it will.
But we told you he's an Article 4 free inhabitant, so he does not have to have a license. This is on recording. Article 4, free inhabitant, pursuant to the Articles of Confederation. You can look it up. It's in the United States Book of Codes. It is your laws. You have...
Let me just... let me stop here. Let me stop for just a second. To answer your question, what gin I'm drinking. I mentioned it earlier. It's this Heyman's Old Tom gin. This was sent to me by Guns Beer Freedom. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. But the Articles of Confederation are not in the U.S. Code, I don't believe. Let me check real quick. Yeah. Yep. No. So the free inhabitant is incorrect. It is not in the U.S. Code, so they have not codified Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation. Shockingly enough, when they wrote the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation were superseded and no longer held authority in law. So they're immediately incorrect. Thank you, Brandon B.
to follow.
All right, I will do that. Just be smart, man. Want to walk you back here?
Article 4, free inhabitant, pursuant to the Articles of Confederation.
Put the camera down for me. Is that if it records, that's fine. But I don't want you holding anything.
No weapons, no weapons. All right, no.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the same thing.
And get out of the car?
Yes.
No, I'm not getting out of the car.
All right.
You can go get your superior.
Well, I am going to tow this car, and you cannot be in the vehicle while I'm towing this vehicle.
Well, if you go get your superior, he'll clarify that he can be set free because he does not have to have a license.
That's not going to happen right now, young lady. So either you're going to come out of the car on your own free will, or I'm going to assist you.
I'm going to get out of the car and walk down to that house.
No, you are not free to leave right now.
She is being detained. She is officially detained. So, yeah, the cop is very patient in this video. I've seen this one before. He's overwhelmingly patient. One of the often stated questions of sovereign citizens is, am I being detained? Let me break it down for you like this. If the police flashers go on, you are being detained. Yep, you are. So at that point, let's see. Oh, sorry. Trying to get to a different screen here. At the point where you are no longer free to leave, you are detained. It's a really handy guide to follow. And I strongly recommend everyone understand that. Because screaming, am I being detained at an officer is not helping anybody. But you are detained the moment you are not free to leave. That is the legal standard for this, for detention. And so, yes, if you are pulled over by flashing lights, you are being detained. You're not necessarily arrested, although for the for Fourth Amendment analysis, you are under arrest at that point, and that kind of changes your relationship with the officer. But yeah, and then especially now that he specifically said, because she wasn't driving, so presumably she wasn't driving, so she may think that she's free to leave, but he just said, no, you are not free to walk down to that house. She's definitely being detained at this point.
Are you saying you have authority over me?
Yes, I do.
You have proven authority over me?
Yes, yeah. I do.
How did you do that?
The County of Imperial through the sheriff.
Wolf Badger just asked a good question. Isn't it sometimes useful to clarify politely if you're under arrest? I mean, you can ask them. They will not answer. They are not required to answer if you're under arrest or not, and they can actually lie about you being under arrest. Police officers have broad authority to lie, or broad leeway, we'll say, to lie to you. So yelling someone call the cops when you're being pulled out of the car, that's helpful. So they can lie about it. The court doesn't look at what the police officer says when they're doing an analysis of Fourth Amendment protections. Usually this is the search and seizure protection, that this is where the propriety of the arrest comes into play, or the validity of it, or, you know, they're not going to look necessarily at what the officer says about the state of being arrested, unless they specifically say you're under arrest. That, you know, that tells someone that they're under arrest. But if they use language like freeze, halt, remain in place, do not move, at that point you're detained as well. And that's what the court looks to. They don't really care if the officer says you're under arrest or you're not under arrest. I mean, they care if they say you're under arrest, because that's a clear indication that you are. But them saying you're not under arrest doesn't mean you're not under arrest. Because if they say, no, you're not under arrest, and you turn to walk away and they handcuff you, then clearly you're under arrest. So who cares what they said? Is it sometimes useful to clarify politely if you're under arrest? I mean, it might be useful in the interaction. You have to gauge that on like a, do I want to talk about this with this officer right now? But, you know, this is an issue. Here's one thing to remember. If you're refusing consent to a search or refusing to consent to various things to police officers, that may be the right thing to do. But you have to understand, if you're refusing consent to search your vehicle and they want to search your vehicle, they're going to do it. You may have a legal argument afterward about the propriety of that search and if they reach the sufficient probable cause to conduct it. But that argument takes place later. That takes place in court. Whether they search you or not, you know, you should not really be consenting to searches as a general rule. You shouldn't be consenting to searches. But what that actually prevents is not necessarily them searching you. It may give you an argument later to say that the search was improper. So Adam Smith says, I saw a sovereign citizen training in Detroit, JST2C. I don't know what JST2C is. Black speaker claimed cops let him go when he showed them his homemade driver permit. Informant for sure. Yeah. I would not trust anybody who says that their sovereign citizen argument worked, although maybe it does. You know, it's possible that a sovereign citizen argument worked, although it's probably not the argument that's working. It might just be that the cop wasn't planning on giving the person a ticket in the first place, because sometimes cops act, you know, I give them a little bit of heck because of my job, but sometimes they do act in a good way in regards to traffic stuff, where they're, you know, they get a very quick feel from the traffic stop that there's not a drug arrest or some sort of wanted suspect or a stolen vehicle, and they may just let people go even if they were speeding or doing some minor traffic infraction, because that's not what they're looking for. And so it's possible that that was the root of that, or he was completely lying. Hamilton Burger, thanks, buddy. Here, I'll have a drink on you. And yeah, definitely watch the replay tomorrow. Go have fun in the real world. They can't arrest you if you literally talk them to death. This is a good plan. I recommend it. All right, so this video does cut around a little bit. It is a compilation, but we'll get back to our friend, the Article 4 free inhabitant. Let's see what this guy does.
How you doing?
I'm good, officer. How are you?
Good. Need to see your license and insurance, please.
Can I get your name and badge number for the record,
It's
please?
Lieutenant Cochran with the Powder Springs Police Department.
First name, Lieutenant?
Lieutenant Cochran.
What's your first name, Lieutenant?
It's irrelevant. I need to see your license and proof of insurance.
If your name is irrelevant, so is mine, officer.
Sir, I need to see your
Nope, that's not true.
license and proof of insurance.
Are you conducting an investigation?
Yes, sir, I am. I have you for speeding, 72 and a 55.
So
I need to see your driver's license.
Is speeding a crime?
Yes, it is. I need to see your license.
Is speeding a crime? Yeah. Yes, speeding is a crime, typically speaking, no matter how much we all may do it.
License and proof of insurance, sir.
Can you prove that I'm driving?
Sir, I need to see your license and proof of insurance.
Am I driving?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm not. I'm traveling. I am going to continue to film.
I'm not driving. Who is? He may have just admitted to a worse crime. Sorry.
And it is not a crime for me to travel without a license?
License and proof of insurance, sir.
What you may have.
I'm giving you a lawful order.
What you may have.
Obey it, or I'm going to
What you may have. What you may have is the opportunity to read Whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's, you know, like, it's videos like this that make me want to be a police officer just for like a day, just for a day, to just grab a window and absolutely devastate it when someone annoys the hell out of you. Oh my goodness. Now, Chris, I can see you're a little angry. But listen, from a legal standpoint, asserting your actual footage from Landwee's pullover colorized. Thank you. Asserting your rights and defending your rights is one thing, but and at this point, this police officer hasn't done anything untoward. The window break might be considered excessive at this point. It might be, in all honesty, it might be considered excessive at this point. But, you know, he has given the guy a lawful order to identify himself, and he's given him which you are required to do. If a police officer has detained you and they ask for your identification, you are required to give it to them. That is a law pretty much everywhere. And this is one way you know if you're detained or not. If a police officer comes up to you, like let's say you're standing next to Taco Bell, okay? And a police officer comes up, they got a report that there was a fight in the area, and they come up and ask you for your identification. And you say, "No, thank you, officer," and turn around to walk away, and they don't stop you, you're not detained at that point. And you don't have to provide them with any identification. If they say, "Stop," freeze, turn around, come back, if they start to exercise their authority over you, at that point you are detained. At that point you do have to identify yourself, and your argument moves from a field argument into a court of law argument. And the reason I want to stress this so much is because arguments that happen in the field between you and a police officer can end up with you in a body bag. Because we have police officers right now who are angry. They're human. They have maybe been in a life-threatening situation in the recent past, possibly with someone in a sovereign citizen type event. We saw how the FBI regards sovereign citizens. You can imagine there are local law enforcement trainings that are probably similar, saying that these people are a danger, and a danger to you specifically as an officer. So when you have a conversation in the field, that could end up with you in a body bag, and you don't want to go that route. Even if you're justified ultimately, it's great to not be dead when you're justified. So RZEQDW says, hilarious David Cross parody of Sovereign Citizen YouTube videos, bit.ly/2QEHUF4. We'll see if we can get to that. Do you have to stop even though a police officer doesn't say Simon Says? Yes. Yeah, and honestly, like, identifying yourself is not the hill to die on, because you are required to do it. And not identifying yourself is often a separate crime to whatever else you are doing, and it could be obstruction of justice as well. So I don't recommend that course of action. But let's see what happens next.
This is assault. This is assault. You've broken my windows. I do not consent. I do not consent. Oh, this is police brutality.
I'm fixing
Stop.
to tase
This
you.
is police brutality.
I'm fixing
I
to
haven't
tase
done
you.
anything.
Hey,
Do it again. I'll tase you again.
You do not have authority over a human.
don't get tased, y'all. I don't recommend getting tased. Let's see. How does it work with police identifying themselves and giving you a command, Brandon B? I'm not... Can you expand on that just a little bit for me so I can properly answer the question? If you're under arrest, you have to respond to lawful commands of a police officer, right? Like, which are simple commands. You know, what to do with your hands, to keep your basically to ensure the safety of the officer, keeping them in view or getting handcuffed. If they ask you to move to a reasonably close distance, like to go sit on a curb or to the hood of the vehicle, you have to comply with that if you are being detained, which again, you are being detained for a traffic stop or something like that. So as for identifying themselves, they need, I don't know that there's a requirement for them to identify themselves or not, but typically they will give you at least their last name and badge number. I'm Officer so-and-so, this is my badge number, I'm with this department, and you have every right to ask for that. That's fine. Don't tase me, bro. Oh, goodness. You know what's interesting? I think that case went really similar to a case I was just reading, but it was a Minnesota case, and that the officer did not sound like a Minnesota officer. So, all right, back to our friend.
Being over a free inhabitant.
Do you want to argue the point?
You need to go look up your laws.
I don't have to look at anything right now. What I need to do is get you out of the vehicle, and if you have identification, please hand the identification over to me.
No.
Identify yourself to me.
And I'm not going to step out of the vehicle.
All right. Well, you know, you are impeding my investigation. You are delaying me, which is a penal code violation in the state of California.
That law only applies to U.S. citizens.
Well, where are you a citizen of?
I am not a U.S. citizen.
Well, see, that's
I am a free inhabitant. I am of the earth. I do not belong to any corporation. I do not belong to any country.
Yeah, but as long as you're in the sovereign states of the United States, you will abide by the rules and laws.
See,
that was a clunky argument by the officer, but he's technically correct. In an instance of, say, a plainclothes police officer, or if your vision of the officer would be reasonably obscured, i.e. vehicle with spotlight. Yeah, I mean, you can request their identification. Like I said, they typically would have to provide it to you. There are situations where police officers do not have to disclose their identity. For example, if they're undercover, they may not have to disclose their identity to you to protect their own safety, and that might not be any sort of problem for them. Explain why Hamilton Burger is subject to the law of the state, but Hamilton Burger is immune. Hamilton-Burger? Who's Hamilton-Burger? I can't answer that question. I'm missing the context. Okay, but yeah, so interestingly, like, this is an interesting legal theory by the lady here, because let's say she were a citizen of Turkey, for example, but in the state of California, she is subject to the jurisdiction and laws of California, and there's no real way around that. So, not a good argument again.
And you have certain protections.
A free inhabitant is they are allowed to. They're free people. They have all of the rights of a U.S. citizen without following any of their laws.
Well, that would just be pure anarchy if that were the case.
No, because we're peaceful people. We're peaceful people. You go call them up and ask them, and they'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, I don't know who to call.
Your superior.
Well, I am.
Does this person honestly think that this trooper's superior is going to agree with them? That's interesting. So Minnesota does not have any stop and identify law. Let's see what these. Let's see what we mean here. Stop and identify statutes. Let's see. Okay, so to legally obtain the identification of someone whom they reasonably suspect of having committed a crime, if there's no reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed, is being committed, or is about to be committed, an individual is not required to provide identification. Yeah, so again, the let's see. So the stop and identify law, I'm doing this on the fly, so we'll have to see. I wonder if I can pull this up quick. It's always a disaster when I'm looking things up on the fly, so I apologize for that. Let's see. Come on. So these stop and identify laws. Hold on. Asgard is not a place, it is a people, and your laws do not apply to Thor, the god of thunder. Yes, and in the Articles of Confederation, yeah, they say you're punished according to the laws of the state that you're in, but I think they might say citizenships. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. So this is a Minnesota case. This is State versus Hollins, and I'm going to read you a quote from from Fox, which is State versus Fox. This is from the Supreme Court of Minnesota. Persons found under suspicious circumstances are not clothed with a right of privacy which prevents law enforcement officers from inquiring as to their identity and actions. The essential needs of public safety permit police officers to use their faculties of observation and to act thereon within proper limits. It is not only the right but the duty of police officers to investigate suspicious behaviors, both to prevent crime and to apprehend offenders. In analyzing the issue before us, we must consider Minnesota Statute 64.714, which makes it unlawful for someone other than a peace officer to carry, hold, or possess a pistol in a public place without a permit to carry. Minnesota law also requires a permit holder to have permit and government-issued identification at all times. Yeah, so this is in the context of the handgun. Search incident to arrest. But, yeah, so the problem is, even if there's no specific statute, my wife 3-week-old and I and I all love your stream. Thanks, Mike P. Even if there's no specific statute requiring you to provide identification to an officer, often there's common law basis for doing so. So I don't want to. I'll see if I can get a better answer for you. Do I know of a YouTube named Donut Operator, ex-SWAT and beat cop from SC? He does breakdowns and such. Would like to see the two of you talk. I've heard of him. I haven't watched any of his videos. I've watched Mike the Cop's videos, and we'll just say I have a little bit of disagreement with Mike on some issues. I'm curious on the Donut Operator guy because I've heard of him mentioned in the similar context, but I actually, my neighbor is a trooper, and so I'm hoping that he'll collaborate with me on some stuff soon here. But I don't know what he'll be allowed to talk about. But I think it'd be great to have a current cop issue some commentary on some stuff along with a lawyer, and we could go back and forth on our different opinions on things. That seems like it'd be interesting to me. I'm hoping you guys agree. But okay, so we're gonna move past this issue of the ID. Let me just say that if in Minnesota, whether there's a specific statute or not, if you refuse to provide ID to a police officer who is lawfully requesting it, you're being detained and they have reasonable suspicion, then you can be charged with obstruction or other crimes, and I do not recommend it. You know, and there's not, again, there's not a magic word or magic statute that's going to prevent that. That argument comes in court, but I'll tell you, there are cases where people refuse to identify themselves even after being arrested, and those people end up with obstruction charges as well. So, and they lose them. So that's important to remember. Yeah, send him my info and we can chat for sure. All right, let's get back to this. Let's see how our friend is doing.
I am a superior to a certain extent.
So call your superior.
Well, it's going to take a couple hours or so for somebody to come down.
Well, just
and that's
call
not going
him.
to happen right now.
Well, then we're going to have to solve it some other way.
All right.
We just need to, you need to call in, tell them I'm a free inhabitant, and find out what that is.
Well, I am going to tow this vehicle, young lady, so you cannot be in this vehicle.
I understand that. So all right, then I'm going to get out of the vehicle and I'm going to walk down to that house because you do not have authority over me. Well, then I'm not getting out of the vehicle.
No, you're not.
Why?
You're not free to leave.
Why?
As soon as I conclude the rest of my investigation, you will be free to leave.
I come in peace.
I understand.
I have not committed any crime.
I smell marijuana coming from this vehicle. Okay.
Side note, whether there's marijuana coming from that vehicle or not, man, I hate the smell of marijuana argument from cops. I hate it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it.
I will not step out of this vehicle. You have not committed a crime. You have never seen a crime. Terry v. Ohio.
I have reason to believe.
Okay, so he references Terry v. Ohio. And this is a bad case for him to reference. So Terry v. Ohio is the origination of the Terry stop, and that's where we go from requiring probable cause to conduct some sort of investigation to reasonable suspicion. And the full version is reasonable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. And Terry versus Ohio says that we should give large deference to police officers' training and experience and acting on their gut specifically. So I don't think he wants to be citing to Terry versus Ohio because the Terry stop is not going to go in his favor. Oh my goodness.
That crime is afoot because I can smell marijuana coming from this vehicle.
Crime is afoot sometimes if you don't shower. Tillip says this $5 is a binding adhesion contract that you must produce a child for every like this stream has by the end of it. Ooh, it's gonna be tough, buddy, but I'll try.
Do you understand that?
Do you comprehend Article?
I have a lawful reason to get you out of the vehicle.
You do not.
Yes, open up the vehicle.
No. I would like to see your supervisor. I want to see what kind of crime. Are you violating my space? Are you kidding me? Help! 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 I do not consent!
Now, as a side note, this video is a little sad because there is a kid in the car, and this guy has, whoa, stream is going great. Good job, bitrate. So there's a kid in the car, and like this guy is probably causing some undue trauma to the child. Let's see. Gats. Crime is afoot. Someone call Dr. Watson. Yeah. All right, back to the screaming. Plug your ears. Sorry.
I do not consent! Help! Help! I do not consent! I do not consent!
We did not.
I do not.
You're upsetting my son. No, the guy screaming is upsetting your son. That guy's upsetting your son. And like, guys, I am not a fan of the police. But, woo, this guy.
Consent! I do not consent!
I'm not asking you for your consent.
Yes, you have to have his consent.
Are you people not dependent? I am not a resident of the state of Indiana. I am not whatever you think I am. I am not a resident of the state of Indiana.
I'm going to search this vehicle.
We do not consent to any kind of search.
I didn't ask for your consent.
No.
I don't have to ask for your consent.
Okay, police don't necessarily need consent to search a vehicle once they have reached probable cause, because probable cause, probable cause it triggers something called the a warrant exception. It's an exception to the warrant requirement, and that's a motor vehicle exception to the warrant requirement. So once police get to the stage of probable cause, and the smell of marijuana smoke is typically enough to tip that scale into having probable cause, they no longer need your consent to search your vehicle. As a personal recommendation, I would always suggest that people refuse consent to the search of their vehicle, even though it may be a losing refusal. But you should not, I mean, you really just shouldn't be consenting to searches. Make the police officer do their job. Make them get probable cause. If they require a warrant, then make them get a warrant. But that refusal should be limited to your vocal refusal, not to you physically resisting. Physically resisting an officer could end up with you in a body bag. I don't recommend it. Gatsgat says, when they all start yelling help, what do you think they are yelling for? They expect sovereign cops to show up. Landry should have tried yelling this. Well, I think they're expecting the people to rise up and revolt against their government overlords. And isn't that what we're all expecting and hoping every day? I know I am.
No, you do not.
Yes, you do.
Eddie, you do not smell marijuana. I don't smell any marijuana.
Oh, it reeked of marijuana.
No, it doesn't. We don't smell any marijuana anywhere.
I smell marijuana coming from the vehicle. He's refusing to get out of the vehicle. All right. Okay, so
I don't consent to anything. I don't know what this guy's doing. No. No.
You're going to assault him?
Are you assaulting me? Are you assaulting me?
You're assaulting him. We deny
Help! 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 Call the police!
Call the police.
No!
Call the police.
Help me! Help me! What crime have I committed?
We didn't
what
commit
crime
any
did you
crime. Give us the ticket.
Terry v. Ohio.
Terry v. Ohio.
You're gonna get tased if you don't step out.
You're gonna get tased.
Guys, Terry v. Ohio is where a cop approached a guy who was just standing there. The cop said he looked shady. So he went up and did a short investigatory detention, I believe, patted him down, and found a gun in his pocket because the guy looked like a criminal. I mean, come on.
Step out.
What crime have I committed? What crime have I committed?
Step out.
What crime have I committed?
Step
What
out.
crime have I commited?
Don't get tased.
What crime have I committed? What crime? I have been assaulted with a tase gun. You're trying to attack my nuts. That is not proper.
Oh, sure, Tess. It was two guys and they cased a joint for 12 hours. Still. If I want to sit around a bank for 12 hours, you know, that's my business. Store. Yeah, sure. So Gatscat says that's just meth you smell, not marijuana. It's a valid defense. What are the chances they call the police and the current cop has to ask if he is being detained? Could you imagine if there was a sovereign citizen cop? Like, that sounds like a great sitcom.
For use of that device.
Stop it!
Have you been trained in proper use of a taser?
I don't know if he has, because the guy didn't sound like he actually got tased.
Watch her, Bill.
I'm not going to do anything. I just want my child. You just please let me go. I just
No,
didn't have
just
my
get
seatbelt
your child
on.
out. Just go ahead and get in your car.
Call the lawyer right now.
Which one?
Why do I have to get out the
Any lawyer!
As far as I know, you have not done anything wrong at this point, but you are slowly reaching to that point
you know what?
to 148 PC.
I'll get out of the vehicle for you. I will get out of the vehicle. And I'm getting mama.
All right, well, you're not free to leave.
You're
You're going to take the bag off.
No, I'm
You're going
not.
to take the bag off.
No, I'm not.
Is it not your...
Hey! You're raping me! This is rape! This is rape! This is rape!
Relax.
Oh, God. Oh. I'm sorry. That's high-pitched. The marijuana incense sticks. No, it does not cancel probable cause. I would not recommend having a marijuana-scented incense stick. It would only give them probable cause. Yeah, so don't do that. All right, and yes, a webcomic is absolutely rape. All right, guys, here back to the screeching. I apologize.
Okay,
Relax your arms.
It's relaxed.
Stop fighting with me.
It's relaxed.
Stop fighting with me. Stop fighting.
All right. I'm not fighting.
Center 2, 5, 6. I got a combative X-ray.
Here, I'm lifting my arm up. I'm lifting my arm up.
Your arm right
it
there.
hurt. Okay, I told you what I was doing.
This is pain compliance.
I told you
okay?
what I was doing.
It's
I
not
don't
meant
have
to be comfortable.
I can do whatever I want now.
This is
Do I have
illegal.
your attention?
This is completely illegal.
Left your arm.
No! Take my bag off!
I can't.
You're not putting me in the car. You can wait till you get superior. You are not taking my bag off. You can handcuff me with my bag on.
You're right. I will.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. How it is. How you doing today? Can I get your name?
I'm Chick at the Addison Police Department.
Can I get your badge number?
License and proof of insurance,
Can I get your badge number?
It's 210. Can I see your driver's license?
On a side note, where'd this guy's neck go? His neck must be on vacation.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. As a man, what right do you have to stop another man?
As a man, what right do you have to stop another man? That's a good question, buddy. Men don't stop men. Men let men keep going.
Sir, let me see your driver's license, proof of insurance.
As a man, I'm asking you as a man, what right do you have to stop another man?
The state of Texas has given me the right to enforce the law.
Enforce the
You were
law?
speeding. You were doing 50 in a 40-mile-an-hour speed zone.
I'm speeding. Did you realize in the state of Texas that speeding in and of itself is not illegal?
They just put those signs up for no reason, my dudes.
Okay, sir, let me see your driver's license and proof of insurance, please.
Well...
Sir, I'm going to tell you one more time. I need
Okay.
your driver's license and proof of insurance, please.
All right.
Otherwise, I'm going to charge you with failure to identify.
Okay, I'm still having to ask you a question here.
Okay. That's not how this works.
That is how it works. Either that or I'm going to have to ask you to get your supervisor because I'm still asking you some questions here.
Let me see your driver's license.
So I would like to know why you stopped me. Because stopping me for speeding in and of itself is not a crime. According to the state of Texas, the actual it is the oh, you know, the Attorney General, not the Attorney General, but the prosecutor, yeah, the DA. So the DA is the one that stated on page 19 that speeding in and of itself is not a crime. It is not illegal. And I am not going to... Do you have a warrant for my arrest?
No.
Then, obviously, if you do not have a warrant for my arrest...
He's not arresting you. He's not. He's just. It's just a speeding stop. Why would he have a warrant? On page 19. Oh, guys, this reminds me of being home. Love you back, Pirate Chan. Speeding is not illegal. Page 19. All right. Speeding is not illegal in the state of Texas. Maybe you don't know. You know about it. How after these guys in court, when they inevitably go to jail, pretty effed. Don't work out too well for fellas like this. Is it illegal to record videos vertically? It should be, man. It should be. Should be. All right.
Then you do not have the right to ask me for any
of the...
Okay, then you'll falsify putting me under arrest, and then that is going to be illegal on your part, and then you're going to impound my car, which will be illegal, and then I'm asking you...
I love that he's looking to the Lord for guidance right now.
What right do you have as a man to stop another man?
Sir, I need to see your driver's license and proof of insurance, please.
Okay. Do you have a warrant for my arrest?
Sir, I'm asking for your driver's license.
Do you have a warrant for my arrest? If you do not have a warrant for my arrest, then this is a custodial stop. Am I free to go?
This is not custodial. You're detained.
You're detained, buddy. You don't even have to scream it at me. Let me let you know right now. Oh, goodness. Yeah, falsifying an arrest. I mean, he didn't arrest you, but lied about it later. All right, sorry.
Being detained, right?
Yes.
Am I under arrest?
You are not at this moment. Can I see
Okay.
your driver's license? and
Now
insurance?
you're saying that I am being detained.
You are being detained.
For what reason?
Because you were violating the speed limit.
Speed limit is not a crime in the state of
is.
Texas.
Look at him
No,
twitch
it's
those
not.
hands.
No,
He wants to grab
according
that
to
gun.
the traffic code. Okay, let's look at the traffic code. I have
can I
read
see
the
your driver's
traffic
license
code.
and proof of insurance,
The
please?
traffic codes.
Jeff Pierce. Nick, great choice in the vid. Iron Maiden vid next. Which Iron Maiden vid should we do?
States that all traffic laws are for people operating a commercial vehicle. I am not operating a commercial vehicle. This is not a commercial vehicle. I am not operating a commercial vehicle at all.
Sir, let me see your
Pony, I believe they do. I believe they do. But I don't know that for a fact off the top of my head, and it may be different state to state, but I believe they do. Yeah, the cop does look like he has PTSD dealing with people like this. Maybe that's what happened to his neck. His neck was killed by a sovereign citizen. Can you patent my invention? The cam phone that records vertically and displays horizontally. That's a good idea. Why don't they have a giant square aspect ratio, like even, and you can flip the aspect ratio on the side? Wouldn't that be great? All right.
I do not have to have a commercial vehicle. I do not have to operate it with a license with a commercial vehicle or anything like that. So in the state of Texas, the laws only apply to vehicles that have. That's fine. Y'all are going.
I need to see your driver's license.
Then we have another cop pulling up, and I'm
Sir!
sitting here asking
Sir!
them the same
What
thing.
is
I
your
need you to stand down and get your.
Open your window now, or I'm gonna bust it out.
Now you're going. Okay, I need you to call, and I need you to get your supervisor out here. I need your supervisor out here. I need your supervisor. I am asking for. I am asking him for his supervisor. I am asking you for your supervisor. Okay, officer, I am asking you for your supervisor to come out here. Now you have busted.
Notice the dainty two-finger grab on the window. Let me just peel this back after I brutally smash it with the asp. Oh.
My vehicle up, and now you are going to detain me. You are illegally getting into my vehicle.
I love how this guy is narrating his life right now. I was unlawfully detained by the officer, and now he is getting into my vehicle. Oh my gosh. Now you're going to get in. Look, you're videoing it, buddy. We can see what's happening.
And now you have taken my phone.
On the ground.
Relax.
I'm relaxed. Don't touch my bag! You're touching my bag! You're gonna get in so much trouble, you son of a bitch!
Ooh.
You're gonna get sued!
Parental
You don't even
advisory,
know what you're
explicit
doing!
lyrics.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna fucking
Explicit
sue
reading.
you!
Stop.
What's your name? Argadona, you're gonna get arrested. You're gonna get fucking... Oh my god, you don't know your own laws!
Relax, young
You
lady.
don't know your own laws!
Relax, young lady.
I can't believe you just did this.
You need to calm down.
You're gonna get in trouble. You don't know your own laws.
Calm down.
You're illegally doing this. I told you I was a free inhabitant.
Calm down.
You are illegally doing this.
I said magic words. I'm fine.
You are illegally doing this. I told you this is against my will. You did this illegal. You cut my bag.
All right, you're under arrest.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Give me my stuff.
Relax.
No.
You're
Leave me
under
alone.
You can't have this big camera around.
You can go get your superior.
I will.
Go get, and I'm
but not
waiting
right
right here. Go get your fucking superior. You son of a bitch! Give me my fucking stuff. You fucking
calm down.
You need to fucking learn your goddamn job because you don't know your fucking laws! Go get your superior and go get your fucking laws!
Wow. Let's go.
No! You son of a fucking bitch! Fuck you, you stupid son of a bitch!
I do not condone the excessive profanity in this
Oh my
video.
god, you son of a...
Nor does Lagavulin condone the excessive drinking in my video.
Dude, I'm too old for this. How you doing?
How's it going?
Hold on, let me get up there first and I'll talk to you. United States citizen, sir? Yes?
I'm gonna opt out.
Okay. So for context, this guy is a Border Patrol agent who has just popped up. You're a United States citizen, sir? I'm gonna opt out. Alright.
Well, the thing is, before we can proceed with immigration inspection, if you are, that's fine. I don't really care if you're German or whatever, but are you legally in the United States?
Oh, you asked if, so F-Spams asked if any of the sovereign citizens have been black people. I don't know specifically, but I believe the second guy in the video is. I believe so. I don't know. But the sovereign citizen movement does appear to largely be white movement. Now, okay, so guys, in my research on this video, which is not super extensive, but it, you know, it had a lot. The sovereign citizen movement is defined by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and this is going to surprise you as a white nationalist anti-Semitic movement. So just remember that the real problem with the sovereign citizens is that they hate the Jews. Gas and Heaps, how would you defend these people in court? You know, you defend them largely based on the same way you defend anybody else. There is no sovereign citizen defense. It's not going to work. Bringing it would maybe get you in trouble. But you just have to try and defend them on the facts on the ground. But Gatscat says they defend themselves with page 19, and that's a funny joke, but it's also a lot of them represent themselves pro se because they would see someone like me as part of a corrupt system. And I know this because I had a client who is not explicitly a sovereign citizen, but very much acted in the similar manner and doubted the jurisdiction of the state in any of his affairs. So, I mean, it was a very difficult person to deal with because when you would tell them what the state actually could do, they just don't believe you, and they believe immediately that you're working for the state. Even though, if you know me, I hate the state about as much as it can be hated. It's not as trucking, it's going to get a little messed up. There's a few in the email I sent, but the vast majority are older, 45 plus white guys. Yeah, they all seem to use the same language. I want to speak to your superior. Am I being detained? Speeding is not a crime, etc. Is there like a guide on this? Yes. There are various guides on this. These people are not operating in a vacuum and not coming to this conclusion on their own. They're being sucked in with various books about the subject. And that's just a consequence of the, you know, the freedom of speech. Could any of these people submit their videos for a solid defense on the grounds of mental incompetence? Potentially. Potentially. But usually that the mental incompetence is going to get them a court-appointed attorney. Sneezing is defined as white nationalist by SPLC. They're quite kooky. Yeah. You could submit these videos as proof of mental incompetence. Is there any reason these guys need to constantly repeat themselves 500 times? Yeah, because the arguments that they have, you know, they're given... You run into this with anyone who's been given a script. And I'm going to put it in church context again, because I love church context and how it overlaps with legal context, okay? In church context, for reference, I have taught Sunday school to high schoolers in the past. And I mentioned using a particular scholar's work to review some of the material we were doing. And one of the parents asked me what scholar I was using, and so I told them the name. In this case, it was N.T. Wright. And they said, oh, you know, I don't remember what I don't like about him. I have to go check. That's because they've been given a script on what is the right or wrong interpretation of the text that this person engages in. And so when you have someone whose argument is limited to a script that they've been given, not due to reasoning or some sort of basis, but there's someone has done the work for them and presented a script for them to follow. Once you go off script and you get shot down, your only option is to go back to the script because you don't have any other basis. So that's why they repeat themselves so often. Pirate Chan, have you looked at Ernie Turtlegate, the living man? Is that the dude who was in court saying he was a living man, he was living off the land? That didn't go well for him either. If you wrote a satire book about being a sovereign citizen, I'd buy 2 copies. Oh gosh.
All right. I'm not answering questions.
Okay, then we have to go ahead and take you in. I know you're recording. We'll take you in, identify you, and then you can proceed.
So you're detaining me?
Yes, sir.
That under what probable cause?
On the probable cause, that 18 U.S.C. 111.
Code.
Okay, 18 U.S.C. 111. Let's see, 18 U.S.C. 111. All right. Well, I don't know if that counts. So 18 U.S.C. 111 is assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. In general, whoever forcibly assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with any person. Okay. So forcibly assaults, comma, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with any person designated in section 1114 of this title while engaged in or on account of the performance of official duties, or 2, forcibly assaults or intimidates any person who formerly served as a person on account of the official duties during that term of service. So even if they're later fired. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of, so that's the statute. So if he's impeding this officer in the performance of his duties, that's what he's talking about. So let's see. The second guy sounded black. Rekieta law confirmed racist by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah, I'm sure that if they did a dossier on me, they'd conclude I hated all sorts of people. They'd be wrong, but how do you not forcefully assault? That's a good question, buddy. I don't know.
18111 is about impeding me or injuring a federal officer. I've not done that.
Look at this guy. He knew it without even looking it up.
Well, the thing is, sir, now that you're actually taking me away from my job.
That's because you're choosing to keep me here.
Yes, I am.
That's your choice. That's your choice.
You know why?
Yes.
Because I asked you a simple question. Are you a United States citizen?
But prior to prior to our encounter,
yes.
There was no probable cause to even stop me.
You know very well this is a immigration inspection.
Yes.
As a trucker, interstate trucker,
yes.
You're aware that at southern borders, California, Arizona, we have checkpoints.
Yes.
Right? And you know.
All right, so guys, this is kind of interesting to me. In jurisdiction, or not in jurisdictions, in places where there are certain parts. Wow. There's certain places where you have a reduced set of rights, and one of those places is any border or port of entry or customs or airport. So in this case, you know, the officer has they can establish these checkpoints. They don't need the same level of cause to investigate because the courts have reasoned that the United States government has an increased authority, and therefore you have decreased autonomy at any sort of border crossing or within the close proximity to a border crossing, because the United States has a compelling interest in controlling its borders. So the border or the customs place is really the last place you want to make your stand, because they can detain you with much less cause for much longer and not get in any sort of trouble for it. So Corey Jamnick says, I think the argument that people don't want to be subject to the rules, laws, social contracts they didn't sign up for is interesting to think about, but these people are all complete degenerates. It's absolutely interesting to think about, Corey, and if you have not read it, and if you guys in the stream haven't read it, Henry David Thoreau wrote an essay back in the 1800s called On Civil Disobedience, and I strongly recommend reading on civil disobedience. It is a fantastic, it's a fantastic short story about the, I guess about the merits of personal anarchy and not subjecting yourself to the rule of the state. And it's important to note that he wrote all this, you know, prior to the passage of the income tax amendment and all of that stuff. But it's a very, very, very good read. So if you want to read more about what like the intellectual or heady argument for sovereignty, personal sovereignty and autonomy from the state looks like, I would recommend starting with On Civil Disobedience by Thoreau. Great, 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 great book. Well, short story. Essay? Essay? I think it's an essay. It's an essay.
Know that they're going to ask you questions.
You're
so
asking everyone questions.
Yes, every single one.
Any code that you follow is subordinate to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so my Fourth Amendment is unalienable.
What is the Fourth Amendment, if you can tell me?
It regards search and seizure. And you're
I'm not seizing you, or actually,
you just said you were detaining me.
Yes, I'm detaining. That's not a seizure. Do you know what a seizure means?
You're seizing.
You know what a seizure means?
Like confiscating.
Yes, taking away that you're no longer.
But the search part.
The search part is not a search. I'm just asking you a simple question.
Why am I being detained?
Because we're asking a question.
You
Are you a United States citizen?
I don't have to answer that.
What are you guys doing?
Do you know what a seizure is? Seizures are what Kurt Eichenwald fakes, right?
Sir.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he just said?
I heard he's trying to order me to do something, but I'm not listening.
You have no registration. You have to.
It's called civil disobedience. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh no. Oh no. Real quick, you can actually seize a person. And an arrest is a seizure of a person. And you know, you do have a freedom from unreasonable seizure of your person. That's in the Fourth Amendment. You know, I believe it's persons, effects, you know, property, all that stuff. Gats, man, I don't think it's ever worked. I can't imagine it working, but maybe it has. Who knows? Maybe it works because he's ultimately a citizen, but truckers, man, time is money, right? Time is money. Let's see what this guy does.
Okay,
you don't answer my question. Have you ever heard of it?
Okay, you know what?
You don't listen.
No.
Have you answered my question? Have you heard of civil disobedience?
Okay.
All right, have a nice day.
Yeah, all these people are being...
So I don't care what they say. I'm driving. I don't really...
I do not recommend this course of action. If you were pulled over by the cops, I do not recommend just driving off. Not a good plan. Even if they're wrong, this is a bad plan. This could end up with you in a body bag.
Doesn't matter to me.
18 U.S.C. 111, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees, which is me. Forcibly, agent assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with any person designed in section 1114 of the title while engaged in or on account of a performance of his official duties. Motorists should not be permitted to proceed until agents are satisfied with the inspection procedures. Okay? If the motorist refuses to exit the vehicle, agents will use the amount of force necessary to effect the arrest and enforce compliance to the lawful order, including removing the driver from the vehicle. The vehicle should be searched, incident to arrest, and moved to secondary inspection to allow resumptions.
You're not supervised.
I'm asking you this last time. Cooperate or you be extracted out of the vehicle.
I am cooperating.
All right. So I'm asking you.
I am cooperating.
Okay. Are you going to step out of the vehicle and talk to me, or are we going to have to extract you out of this vehicle? This is all being recorded from both phones. Your phone and my phone.
I don't want to be extracted from my vehicle.
Okay. Are you going to go ahead? Are you going to go ahead and cooperate, sir?
You want me to go inside?
No. I need you to talk to me. Are you a United States citizen? Simple yes or no.
That makes no difference to me traveling down a road.
Answer the question.
Sir,
I just want to go down the road
You
freely.
will after I'm complete with my immigration inspection. Do you understand?
I don't like these intimidations.
It's not intimidation, it's the law.
Yes, it is. It's not the law.
I'll count you 3 and I will break this glass.
Don't break the glass, man.
1, open the door. 2,
I haven't done anything wrong.
Open the door. Open the door.
I haven't done anything wrong.
Open the door.
I'm
2.5.
not breaking any laws.
Open the door.
2 3/4.
Man.
I don't want to break the glass.
Don't do it, man. It's not even my truck.
2 5/8.
I know. Well, then open the door.
Man, this is absurd. I can't believe you would do this. I've complied as much as I
2 6/9.
need to.
Stand back.
No.
Stand back.
No, don't. Stop.
Shit.
Get out. Get out. You're under arrest. Get out.
And guys, this is where practicality and pragmatism come in a stop. Like, I get standing for your principles. Like, I'll give full deference to sovereign citizens. Standing on your principles, great. But at the point where they say, I'm going to break your window and arrest you, you're better off at that point just opening the door and getting out rather than having them drag you out. Because once they state that they're going to arrest you, you're under arrest. Like, your legal defense has shifted at that point to the point of being arrested, and they have to act accordingly. Them dragging you out of the car is justified if you're under arrest and resisting. Even if that arrest is invalid, you can still end up with charges from your resisting of the arrest. Or I shouldn't say if the arrest is invalid, but if the underlying crime, if you're vindicated from the underlying crime, you can still be charged with resisting arrest if they had, if they were properly effecting the arrest. And at this point, man, it's better just get out. The truck driver got fired and the truck got towed. Yeah. Yeah. Not a good plan.
Can you take your glasses off for me, please?
Why is that?
I don't feel safe with your glasses on it, and I would like to see your eyes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, you would?
Yep.
Okay. Where are you coming from?
That's not an issue.
Okay.
You have no right to ask me that.
Okay, just to be clear, you don't have to answer that question. And the proper way to not answer that question is to not answer the question. And this is where sovereign citizens get a lot of this stuff wrong. If, you are required to identify yourself, provide proof of insurance and driver's license and a stop, that's about it. You can answer every other question with no. You can answer just about every other question with no or non-answer. But when you start arguing, man, it gets worse. It gets worse for you at that point.
Where are you coming from?
I'm just checking on you.
Can you please take your glasses off so I feel a little...
All right, let's be real though. With those sunglasses, that stare, and that I'm just checking on you, I'm pretty sure that is that's Buffalo Bill.
Safer?
No, the sun's in my eyes.
Okay, well then I will be leaving now.
Okay.
Thank you for your help, officer.
I've seen you sitting here, so...
Okay. I don't feel safe with your glasses on. Okay. I don't feel safe with your glasses on.
Are you alright? I passed by you here earlier.
Yeah, I'm not okay.
Okay, what's going on then?
I already told the other officer.
What other? Oh, the other. You talked to someone else?
Yeah, the guy that wasn't wearing glasses.
Okay.
This guy.
I don't talk to cops that wear glasses.
You stopped by earlier?
He was... Okay, I'm not talking to you because you obviously don't have a clue what the hell is going on.
Okay, so are you leaving now or what?
Why does it matter what I'm doing, officer?
Well, you see that sign right there?
What, the sign that says State Fish and Game Refuge?
No, the other one that says no parking, fire lane.
Is there a fire going on here?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the camera. Hi.
You're welcome.
Shout out to Wyclef Jean and The Rock for It Doesn't Matter.
Leave then.
Okay, I'm gonna leave right now.
Yeah, I hate both people in this video.
I'll leave right now. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you so much for your help, officer. Have a good day.
Like, for real though, that cop was pretty, like, shady and creepy out of his mind. It's a Dr. Demento cop. But he was pretty cool ultimately. Like, can you just drive away from the no parking sign? That'd be great.
Yeah, we just went through a breathalyzer. We refused to stop through a breathalyzer test. So, yeah. There we go, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a good plan, guys. Nothing could go wrong with this plan.
Free man of the land!
So freeman of the land, if I am not mistaken, is the Australian version of sovereign citizens. So this is probably not in the U.S. Maybe UK. I don't know.
Got 2 cars in pursuit. Close by.
Yeah, there actually are sovereign citizen movements in other countries, and they have distinct names. I didn't include them, but you can check the Wikipedia article, and they talk about them. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
Hey, mate. No, mate. No, mate. Am I under arrest?
Yep.
Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest or am I free to go? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? I've been stopped on my way home. Am I under arrest? No, what? No. I do not consent. You've got no right. Whoa! This is thuggery. What the hell's going on?
What
the hell is going on?
Open the door.
Am I under arrest?
Yes, arrest. Evening, officer. Before we continue, I'd just like to let you know that you are being recorded right now.
Before we get started, officer, I'd like to let you know you are being recorded right now.
Okay, that's fine. So why? I would just like to know why I'm being pulled over.
We're doing a roadside safety check.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I being detained?
What's that?
Am I being detained?
Well, right now we're just conducting our job, making sure that everyone's on the road driving safely.
Okay.
Okay, these are not cool. I don't like the roadside safety checks. I'll say that right away. If you don't have at least reasonable suspicion to pull someone over, you shouldn't be pulling people over. And this is a travesty. But let's see how he reacts.
Yes, you can. You are not free to leave. Right
so far, everybody's being safe. Am I being detained then?
You're not free to leave.
Am I being detained?
We do have the legal right to stop you right now.
Oh, I believe this is unconstitutional, but...
Now, like I said, I've asked you for your driver's license.
You actually didn't ask me for my driver's license, but I'm actually not obligated to provide that if I'm not being detained.
What? You are.
Whoa!
You're obligated. Get out now.
Whoa!
Get out now. Driving to privilege, not a right. I'm telling you to get out right now.
Excuse me, I'm not.
We asked for your license and insurance. Yes, you are resisting at this point.
No, sir. I
and give us your license and insurance,
absolutely.
like he was asked.
Absolutely, sir. This is my license here.
Okay, now get your insurance.
Okay.
That's required by law.
All right.
Whew. Someone is turned up.
Driving to privilege, not a right.
Absolutely, sir. I completely
We're not going to sit here and debate with you.
Okay, well, this is very unconstitutional, what you're doing.
No, you know what? This is not unconstitutional. I already explained it to you. Driving to privilege is not a right.
Understood. This is my driver's license.
Good. Thank you.
Card. You're welcome.
That's what you're required to do to drive in Illinois. Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
Do you understand that?
I would also like to inform you that you are being recorded right now.
Good.
Okay.
You know, maybe I'm not current on Illinois law, but I cannot imagine that a requirement for driving in Illinois is to provide your license and proof of insurance to a stop unrelated to the commission of any sort of crime. So my understanding is that they cannot actually do this at a checkpoint. So this guy might actually be in the right. And he does. I don't know why he's in the sovereign citizen category yet. Maybe that will be revealed. But so far, he's not done any sort of sovereign citizen argument. If he was doing that, he would have suggested that the license doesn't matter. So legit question, if someone lived in their car, would they have additional privileges of search? Maybe. It's going to be a total, you know, searches are totality of the circumstances. So the question would be, would the cop reasonably believe they have, or have reason to know that they were living in the car as a resident? Is the car on a public road, or is it parked somewhere off of the public road? Because if you live in your car but it's on a public road and is operable, you know, they have the vehicle exception requirement. But if you want a really good breakdown of this, in all honesty, like a solid legal breakdown of the difference between a vehicle and a residence that happens to have wheels like an RV, go watch Breaking Bad, the scene where they're in the junkyard and the cop is trying to get into that vehicle and he tries to use the vehicle exception, and the junkyard owner actually provides a very competent Fourth Amendment defense and convinces him that he's not allowed to go in. Spoiler alert. But yeah, you can actually watch that episode of Breaking Bad, and that provides a very good summary of the law, believe it or not. So, and yeah, I think this is a sovereign cop. Like, this guy is intense. He was a drill sergeant in a former life.
Can I please shut my door?
No.
Since I'm not being detained.
No. There is a possibility of a tort for a wrongful stop, but the torts are difficult to win. You know, you have to basically show that the cop had no reason to stop. If they're doing a random checkpoint thing, the harm is not particularized to you, so you might not have a tort action there. I haven't seen the Trailer Park Boys episode, but I'll take your word for it. I just wrecked all of Breaking Bad for you. TV does law right very rarely, and usually not in a lawyer show.
What am I being detained for exactly, sir? If I am being detained...
your driver's license and insurance card, which you're required to have when you drive in the state of Illinois.
Understood.
Correct?
Correct. That is correct.
That's what you asked for.
And I do have that, correct?
Hold on, here we go. Alexa, am I being detained? Oh, I don't think she can hear me. Kids might have turned off the microphone.
I don't know. I'm looking at it. You refused to write it originally, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not refuse anything.
Is this your current address?
I would not like to answer
any... Is this your current address?
I'd like to remain silent, sir, unless I have an attorney present.
Is this your current address?
I would like to remain silent, sir. I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you have a more current insurance card?
I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right.
Good job, buddy.
Everything there is completely valid and legal, and I'd like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right from here on out, unless I have an attorney.
What was that?
I would like...
Alexa, please order 4,500 live ladybugs.
To exercise my Fifth Amendment right from here on out, unless I have an attorney.
What does the Fifth Amendment say?
That I have the right to remain silent.
Really?
Absolutely.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Am I free to leave?
On. Yes,
thank you. You guys have a great night.
I don't see how that guy got owned. Seemed like he won.
What's your first and last?
Joker. You can do this at those checkpoints where you are not pulled over for any sort of actual, you're not pulled over for a crime. They just pull over everybody or random cars off the road. They have a really reduced ability to conduct any sort of investigation, and most of it is done by compliance. You may not even have to provide, like the cop there may have been wrong. You may not actually have to provide proof of a driver's license at that point, because they don't have a constitutional reason to stop you. So the guy saying that he believed it was unconstitutional, I agree with him, and I don't think those checkpoints are constitutional at all. You can do this, yes. You do not have to answer a police officer's question, especially if it potentially implicates you in a crime. Like if he were to have an expired insurance card and say, and the cop says, do you have a more current insurance card? He might not want to answer, especially if the answer is no. And he can refuse answering that question. If the cop wants to issue him a citation, he can go ahead and do that. At that point, he may have probable cause to issue the citation, believe that he does not have current insurance. And then, he can then go to court and present current insurance. Maybe he doesn't have the card on him or something like that. But Yeah, he got owned hard because he had to start quoting actual law. But yes, and my personal recommendation at traffic stops is to answer as few questions as possible. You know, and this is always tempered by the specific cop you're speaking with. But if you've got a really nice cop, and sometimes you can just tell, you know, maybe answer questions, especially if you're not doing anything wrong, or even if you were. Sometimes it's beneficial to be honest when you were speeding, but you gotta gauge that individually, and I can't tell you how to do that. But the legally sound way to handle most of this stuff is to provide your driver's license and insurance and not answer questions. And it's important to remember, it is not illegal to not know the speed limit. It is not illegal to not know how fast you are going. It is not illegal for any of these things. So, you know, if the cop says, do you know how fast you're going? No, officer, I don't. Or just no. It's not illegal. That's not a crime. But if a cop says, you know how fast you're going, and you try and equivocate and say, well, I know the speed limit's 65, but I think I was only doing like 68. You've just admitted to a crime at that point. He can record that statement and take you to court and win on that statement alone. So yeah, what if you like talking to cops? I mean, that's like your opinion, man. See this guy. I think I've seen this one. I'm pretty sure it goes well for him too.
I don't have a last name. No.
What's your first name?
I killed my own name.
I don't have a first name either. I've got a name. My name is Robert. You can call me Robert.
So then Robert's your first name. Like if you only have one of something, it's still the first. Oh my goodness. Can I know who the guy in the photograph is behind you before this guy gets tased? Yeah, that's former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. One of the funnier justices around. Well, even when you disagree with him, he always wrote with flair.
Oh, wow. I'm not a person. See, you deal here with Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, which deals with persons, which I am not.
I'm not a person.
What are you? Are you
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, yes.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
I feel like if you're going to say I am a man, you should have a grittier, gravelier, like Western voice, like, I'm not a person. Who are you? I'm a man. I think that's how you got to have the proper gravitas to deliver the sovereign citizen argument.
No.
You're not a U.S. citizen?
I was not born in Washington, D.C. or any territory of the under federal jurisdiction, so no, I'm not a U.S. citizen.
Were you born in the United States of America and any of the states?
I was born in America. Yes, I'm a state citizen of one of the several states.
There's more than 7.
One of the several?
Which state?
Oh, and yes, that amazing frame portrait of Scalia, who is my favorite Supreme Court justice, is, and even, I mean, he has some really bad decisions, y'all. Don't jump to conclusions here, but I love his writing style. But the person who gave me the amazing frame portrait is the infamous Tess. Thank you very much, Tess. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad I found a spot for him in the new video framing. The maritime law is my favorite argument they make. They're not a corporation. And yeah, you heard that the judge was a racist, fascist baby eater from CNN. That's all true. All true stories. And he's dead, so he doesn't get to defend himself. And I'm sure he had information leading to the indictment of Hillary Clinton.
Idaho?
Idaho? Can I see your Idaho state license?
No, I don't have one.
You don't have one?
My person does, but I don't. And I don't wish to create joinder with you.
Did he just admit to owning slaves?
All right. I'm going to go in and speak with the prosecutor. Excuse me. Excuse me. You're blocking my freedom of movement. All right. Well.
Okay, so the elements of you know, like a, I'm trying to think of the words. The elements of you know, like an arrest, an unlawful arrest, or prevention, impeding the freedom of movement, is that you can't move anywhere. Like, you have to be locked, like, in a space that you cannot escape from. This guy can go the other way, so his movement is not impeded.
P. Barnes, you just admitted to me that you're violating my rights.
No, I'm not. You can't come in with the camera.
Well, you're violating my rights. And this is also freedom of the press.
From behind you.
This is also freedom of the press. I mean, I don't know what the hell law book you're reading, man, but it doesn't apply to me.
You leave the camera with your mother outside the courtroom and you can come in.
You are not God. You have no jurisdiction over me.
Are you sure he's not God? Because I saw that episode of Supernatural, and they were very surprised by who God was.
God's not worried about cameras, sir.
Sorry. This dude is like chilled out, and I love him. God's not worried about cameras, sir.
All right. Well, why are you worried about cameras? Because you want to do something wrong? Because you want to do something wrong? Because if it's against the rules, that means it's because somebody intends on wronging somebody else. Because they're afraid of being held accountable. P. Barnes.
It's a nice speech, but you're still not coming in.
Well, I mean, I don't have to go in because you can't even issue a warrant for me.
You might as well leave.
Well, no, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to speak with the prosecutor.
You can go in there without the camera.
Well, please step aside. I'm going in.
No, you're not going in.
Don't touch me.
You're not going in, sir.
Let the record show that you just battered me.
Step back.
And
let the record show. Where's your person following behind taking the record down? That's the green box of justice right there. Okay, let's see. Real question, if a person is blocking your vehicle, is that impeding movement? How can I rectify this? That's a good question, man. That's a really good question, and it's pertinent, and I don't know that there's a good answer. I would say that if you are in reasonable fear for your safety, driving forward is an option that other people have used. I don't know if it's a legally sound option or not. But so when someone blocks off your only egress, which in a vehicle can be forward, if you're in traffic, right, you might not be able to go around them or to reverse away. It's actionable. But I don't know if deadly force is justified under the law. Maybe it should be, because people shouldn't be standing on roads or highways ever. I don't care what you're protesting. Don't stand in front of my car on a highway or a roadway. Have you seen Preacher? God's just super into jazz and BDSM. No, I haven't seen Preacher. All right, let's get back and see how this guy, how the drawn taser. Let's see how it turns out.
You're using. Stop, please. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Oh.
Hey, you know what? You guys are really overstepping your bounds right now.
Listen, you guys tase me a couple more times and I'm getting out of here because you're being rude right now.
Put the cuss on. What are you arresting me for?
How are you doing today? Can I get your name?
I'm with the Addison Police Department.
Can I get your badge number?
License and proof of insurance.
Hey,
can I get your badge number?
Guy.
It's 210. Can I see your driver's license and proof of insurance?
Okay. Let me ask you a question. As a man,
what time? Let's go back. Let's see. This dude's face, he cares not for you.
Count. P. Barnes.
P. Barnes.
It's a nice speech, but you're still not coming in.
Well, I mean, I don't have to go in because you can't even issue a warrant for me.
You might as well leave.
Well, no, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to speak with the prosecutor.
You can go in there without the camera.
Well, please step aside. I'm going in.
No, you're not going in.
Don't touch me.
Let the record show.
Going in, sir.
Let the record show that you just battered me.
Step back.
And you're using. Stop, please.
Stop, please.
I'm not doing anything wrong. Hey, you know what? You guys are really overstepping your bounds right now.
Put the cuffs on him.
Put the cuffs on. What are you arresting me for?
How are you doing today? Can I get your name?
Yeah, we saw this one.
Can I get your badge number?
Can
I get your badge number?
It's 210. Can I see your driver's license and proof of insurance?
Okay.
I'm gonna skip
Okay,
ahead.
officer, I'm asking you for your supervisor to come out here. Now you have busted my vehicle up, and now you are going to detain me. You are illegally getting into my vehicle, and now you have taken my phone.
On the ground.
Become a jinx.
All you have to do is give me his driver's license.
I'm sorry, what was that? I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right from here on out unless I have an attorney. Say? That I have the right to remain silent. Really? Absolutely.
Okay, sure? They just...
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. They just keep cycling through the same video. The same videos over and over. So we'll stop it there. But yeah, there you go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they repeat. I checked the rest of the. You guys can see here. It's the same stuff over and over again. That's a weird way to put. That's a weird way to cut together your videos, dudes. So I think this is a good time to wrap up this portion of it. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to probably bring the stream to a close. We're just over 2 hours and 15 minutes here. And so it seems like a good time to go ahead and lock it up. So if you have any other questions, drop them in the chat here. Anything last minute. Otherwise, I'm gonna shut it down pretty soon. I'm gonna finish my gin. And guns, beer, freedom, man. This gin is good. Good job, buddy. You've sold me. Is traveling under the influence a crime? If you're traveling behind the wheel of a vehicle, it is a crime. It is a crime, buddy. Especially if you're Landau. Actually, Landau, I think, is pretty close to getting a restraining order from all vehicles against him. What is a good faith exception and how do cops use it to circumvent the law? Oh, Tess. Don't make me do that right now. I'll do a video on the good faith exception. How's that? Just for you. I'll do a video on the good faith exception. Because that... I'll rope it in with civil asset forfeiture. We'll do a rage extravaganza on the good faith exception and civil asset forfeiture. How's that? I'm questioning my sexuality. Can you answer that? Is your sexuality being detained? Have you figured out webcomics yet? What is it? What are webcomics? How can I deal the people blocking the highway? I'm going to refrain from answering that question without my attorney present, buddy. I don't know how you deal with them at all. When are you doing a live show? That's a good question. I don't know what I'd even do at a live show. We'll see how that goes. What about maritime admiralty laws, bonded birth certificates, and accepted for value? Oh my goodness. We've been detained so long. Compensation for Stockholm Syndrome, please. I can't. The only compensation I can give you is to watch the next video. What can I do when people block the highway? Can I flash my strap or sue the F out of them? Suing them would be difficult unless you got a particularized harm out of being stopped. But it's possible. The hard thing is finding out who it was and identifying them and proving that they were there. So videoing would be useful. Flashing your strap is, you'd have to check with your state's laws on brandishing a firearm. That might be considered a bit too far in the context of them not causing putting you in reasonable fear of bodily injury. Is Spider-Man the original webcomic? Okay. Your sexuality is being detained. I have detained me for hours. I could not get off. Oh, man, I'm sorry, buddy. Wait, why not? What are you trying to say about me? That's rude. Do you actually have your own attorney? Are lawyers and attorneys the same thing? Lawyers and attorneys are the same thing. I do not have an attorney. I mean, I have some attorneys that I would call if I were into some sort of issue that I was not capable of dealing with myself, but I don't have anyone retained. What would you do if your child declared they were a sovereign citizen if you sent them to their room? I would do what the police do. I would pick them up and physically remove them from my land. Any chance of video on TOS EULAs suing after signing waivers? Posted a relevant article in your Facebook group. Yeah, I saw that article. I'll have to look at it a little closer. Sure, it's a possibility. Maybe that would be a good video for me to collaborate with YouTuber Law, since that's like his specialty. That's what he actually does. So that might be a good thing. I'm sorry, I'll start masturbating right away. I don't want to offend. Yeah, seriously. Zarther says, knock, knock. Who's there, buddy? Thank you for helping to red pill my friends on sovereign citizens. They are being detained. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me on the stream tonight. if you did a live show, you should call it the Bill of Rights tour. Wear a fuchsia suit ranting about the Third Amendment. Are you doing a vid on Dankula? Yes. Yes, I am. And I keep saying this, and it's true. I want to do a live stream on Dankula for European viewers, so it'll be time friendly to Europeans, and hopefully it'll be time friendly to Americans as well, and people can come. Dwayne who? These are long jokes because of the delay. Sorry. So Zarther asked knock knock, and I said who's there? He says Dwayne. Thanks for these streams, always entertaining. Well, thanks, buddy. It's my pleasure. And as soon as this joke is done, which will be forever, we'll close this thing out. Dwayne who? The Bill of Rights tour, free inhabitants, not free admittance. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Okay. Knock knock. Who's there? Dwayne who? Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Hey Lakembra, thanks for watching, buddy. Alright guys, I'm gonna blank this out. Thanks for joining the stream. I will talk to you all. If you have any, again, if you ever have any content you want to see, please let me know. Also, go check out patreon.com/lawsplaining. And if you're fans of the lawsuit videos, check out patreon.com/Asterios. That dude can use all the help he can get. Thanks a bunch. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good night.